Hello everyone, I'm Real Spear, and in this video, I'm going to try and answer the question, does Shadowlands suck? And the short answer is, yeah, it kind of sucks, but I do think it's probably worth your money, and you'll get at least a few weeks of playtime out of it. So, with that being said, Shadowlands, yeah, it sucks, but it's worth playing. The reason it sucks is it doesn't really have the staying power that I hoped it would, and that's for a number of reasons that have to do with the content that they introduced within Shadowlands itself. So, with that being said, I'm going to start with talking about Torghast. Torghast has the potential to be great, but because of the limited floors, it sucks. I made a whole video about it, going really in depth with it, and yeah, Torghast in its current state sucks. And it's because we want to go much further with it, and because we can't, because Blizzard tied Soul Ash, which is a mandatory currency farm to upgrade your legendary, to Torghast. And because it's a mandatory farm, it has to be something that everybody can do, A, and everybody can finish. So that's a problem because it has to be something that's doable within a more casual player's mindset. It's not something that you want to spend 8 hours doing per day farming your soul ash. So Blizzard had to make it easy to complete within a reasonable amount of time so that people didn't have to spend their entire time in Shadowlands within Torghast farming soul ash. So that's a problem. What we really need out of Torghast is unlimited floors and just give us some cosmetic rewards and a leaderboard. And all of a sudden, Torghast becomes instantly overnight one of the best things that Blizzard's ever put into World of Warcraft. So, yeah, Torghast sucks because of those things, has a lot of potential. Moving on, the Maw. It has similar problems to Torghast, and the difference between the Maw and Torghast is the Maw has no potential. The Maw is, as Blizzard said, supposed to feel kind of oppressive and I guess have like a horror feel to it, but it doesn't come across that way. And I think it's partly because of the art style of World of Warcraft doesn't really lend itself to a horror feel, at least the current art style of World of Warcraft. If we go back to classic WoW and you go to Darkshire, for example, that whole area and the quests in that area, like even today in classic WoW, that area kind of feels scary. I mean, it's not, but it is kind of scary, especially when you're leveling up at the current level for that zone. It feels oppressive, feels scary. It has a horror feel to it, and it's awesome. I feel like that's what they wanted to do with the Maw, but it just didn't come across that way. Part of it is, and the worst part about it is they ended up tying Stygia to it, which is another mandatory to farm currency so that you can put gems on your best in slot items. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but in the end, it's like we don't want to be doing the Maw because it's not good content. It has no potential. It doesn't come across as scary. It doesn't feel fun like they wanted it to. And then they make it mandatory. It's not really good game design, and it's something that if you were just coming into World of Warcraft to have fun for a couple weeks, I would say just avoid the Maw. Ignore it entirely as much as you can. Don't do anything in the Maw. It's not worth the time. So, with that being said, the new raid, Castle Nathria. Castle Nathria is actually probably a pretty good raid. At least I think it's a pretty good raid. It's not the best raid I've ever done within WoW, but I had some fun with it. Completed it. Didn't really, want to keep going with it, and that's kind of why I've slowly drifted away from World of Warcraft as of late. I do still log on, do transmog runs and all this other stuff, but it's just not quite what I was hoping, as far as the raid goes. And the mythic, the mythic progression was having a lot of problems recently. They ended up nerfing one of the bosses because it was broken and nearly impossible. But yeah, they ended up fixing that. So it's also a super melee unfriendly tier. I wouldn't, especially if you're going to be playing melee, I wouldn't want to put in a whole lot of time. It's going to be hard to find a guild, all that stuff. So, yeah, the raid, okay. I might give it a 6 or 7 out of 10. It's probably one of the better starting tiers for an expansion, but it's not one of the better tiers. With that being said, Mythic Plus this time around. I think Mythic Plus is actually doing pretty good. The new affixes that they added are pretty fun and interesting. Um, Mythic Plus is just one of the better things in World of Warcraft that they've added in a while. Anyways, the dungeons this time were really kind of tailored towards Mythic Plus, and you can tell that they were, because they're just a lot of fun to run through and speed run. So, yeah, Mythic Plus is definitely something that you'll have find a lot of enjoyment with. It's actually looking really good this expansion. The open world, just in general. I made a video just recently about the open world of Classic World of Warcraft and how I think that Classic WoW has the best open world content of any MMO in history. And I completely believe that because the content is organic and uh, none of it feels forced or mandatory, even though a lot of it kind of is, but none of it feels that way. And that's something that you want in your open world content, is for it to be fun and not feel like it's mandatory. And everything within Shadowlands feels like it's mandatory open world content, but the Maw is really the only mandatory open world content. The rest of it's kind of optional. And World Quest, this expansion, not worth doing really. So what I end up doing open world wise, outside of just hanging out in my Covenant area, is I do the world boss and then I'm done. I might travel to the entrance of dungeons for Mythic Plus. Other than that, I'm not hanging out in the open world. There's nothing to do. Like it's dead. There's no reason for me to hang out there. There's nothing for me to be looking forward to in the open world. But yeah, this expansion PvP, I gotta be honest, I don't PvP a whole lot anymore. I used to PvP all the time, but that was a long time ago. I don't PvP a whole lot anymore, but they did bring back the PvP vendor. People seem to be pretty happy about that, even though the implementation of it isn't exactly what we had wanted. They did bring it back, and that's not, that's a good thing. They were listening to the community. We wanted a PvP vendor. It took a few expansions, but we finally got one. Yeah, like I said, implementation, not exactly what we wanted, but we got one. Yeah, and I haven't heard a whole lot of people complaining about the PvP balance, even though, outside of the normal complaints that people have, it's like, oh, this class is overpowered, this class is overpowered, stuff like that. There's not a whole lot of like crazy things that are going on in PvP as far as balance goes. So, yeah, with that being said, those are the things that I really wanted to kind of touch on as far as like looking into, does Shadowlands suck? Most of the things, not so great. There's only like two good things that I would say in the expansion so far, and that would be Castle Nathria is a pretty good opening expansion raid, and the Mythic Plus. They did a pretty good job this expansion with Mythic Plus. Other than that, there's not a whole lot to look forward to. And me personally, I don't care about the single player story in my MMO, so yeah, there is that too. I'm sure that's okay. Some people are complaining about Sylvanas getting or what looks like might be a redemption arc. People don't want that for obvious reasons. But yeah, so with all that, my rating for Shadowlands, I would put it at a solid 6. Not completely failing, but really, really close to being just a flat out F. Like it's not the worst expansion. I think Warlords takes the cake on that one pretty good as far as like the worst goes, because Blizzard even gave up on that one. Like, they've never done that before. They haven't done it since. So Shadowlands, solid 6 out of 10. Warlords of Draenor, just to give you an idea of how I would rate that, I would give it a 2 or a 3. And BFA Legion, I would give a 7, I think. So Shadowlands, probably, like I said, worth the money, worth a couple weeks of fun. I would recommend getting it, but it's not something that I think many people are going to stick with. So yeah, if you like the video, go ahead and drop a like, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.